Warning, what you are about to hear is two guys talking completely unfiltered.
Cut. What are you doing? We don't do disclaimers. The show's called Totally Unprofessional for a reason.
I'll see what you did. You're wasting our intro time.
Yeah. Start the show.
All right, welcome back. July 22nd, episode
24, like King Griffey.
Episode 24.
I know you think he's an asshole, but he's a Hall of Famer.
I met him. I got a right to call him an asshole.
One time.
It doesn't matter.
How long was the meeting?
First impression. Well, let's see. It was the handshake that I had to ask for. Nice to meet you, Mr. Griffey. How you doing, bud? Who the fuck is this? Who let him in? Never mind, I was with the ex-merchandising manager.
Yeah.
Okay? But he could have... I've been starstruck.
It could have been a bad day.
Well, I've been starstruck before. I'm not going to admit that. Okay, my first Bengals game, I was given some tickets, and I got to meet Carl Pickens in a game where they were up 21-0 over the Niners and then lost 28-21. And like
that's a bad time to meet somebody.
I agreed. But when I ran into Carl Pickens, I was just like, and I was like 20 years old, dude. So I've been starstruck. I wasn't starstruck by Griffey, even though, in my opinion, he's the best, cleanest hitter to have retired to this point. Never tested positive. Had he not been injured so much, he probably would have the home run record.
I'm kind of sour about this, but there's good reason.
Okay.
Because Griffey's my favorite baseball player. Like, when I got into baseball, Griffey was in his prime.
Okay.
And so he's my favorite baseball player. Like, when I talk about basketball, I've always said Jordan's my favorite all-time player, but Garnett is post-Jordan. That's how I am. Like, I got Griffey, and then post-Griffey is David Ortiz, because I'm a Red Sox fan.
Yeah. So
Griffey's my guy from back in the day. So I'm a little sour about that. Like, it could have been a bad day. I got to give him the benefit of the doubt.
You know what? And like I said, I would think that meeting someone new that you've never met, whether you're famous or not, that your real personality is going to come out. And if not, and you're a celebrity, semi-celebrity, whatever you want to call him at that point, you've at least got a demeanor that you maintain in the public. You don't just throw off this asshole persona because...
True, but how many people always want something from you? Not even. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about like photos, everything else.
And I did take that into consideration after, except that the guy that worked there, who I went to the Air Force with, he straight up said he was an asshole too. And this is a guy who ran into him daily.
Yeah, he had a fair assessment of him.
Yeah, a guy who dealt with him daily said, he goes, don't worry about it, he's pretty much an asshole. The guy who was cool as hell was Randy Johnson. That guy was
That's
down.
a big motherfucker. That's got a big motherfucker to you. You're
like
5'9".
He's like stacked two and
he's
6'5",
right?
That guy's
6'6".
a big dude. And he's lanky. He looks thicker on TV. He's actually not that thick. He's a tall, skinny guy. But
did he have his mullet back then? He should have.
He had a hat
in
on.
Seattle, he should have.
He had a hat
It should
on.
have been hanging out the back.
The ducktail and stuff,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, but anyways, so
that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. Anyways, so.
But yes, episode 24 is where we're at.
Did you do your 56? Have you been doing it?
Yes.
What are you up to?
I'm at 1 because I had Andrew McCutcheons that went 0 for 5.
Oh shit!
So yesterday I took Ortiz, who homered, and then I have Jackie Bradley Jr. today. So
I've got Ortiz and Cabrera.
Double down.
They put me up to 3 yesterday, so I'm 3 going in today, and I took Ortiz and Cabrera again today.
Well, Betts hit another leadoff homer today.
Really?
Yep. My Sox are in first place in the AL East. They're a half game up on Eric's Baltimore Orioles and a game and a half up on the Toronto Blue Jays.
Wow.
And if you're a Yankees fan, eat a big bowl of dicks, you're sitting in 4th place.
Did you see that picture I tagged you?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Eat a big bag of dicks.
That's right.
Anyways, so
a little bit of sports business right off the top. The UFC. Chad Mendes, 2-year suspension.
I follow that guy on Instagram, and he's really out there. He's an outdoor guy, fishing, hunting. He does a lot of that stuff. I can't say I saw this coming. But then again, with everything that we've had going on lately, with all of the tests that we've had, Jones, and then you got Lesnar in these marquee spots, not these low-grade fighters who just came in. These are the name fighters. These guys that are supposed to be in their prime, and they're the draw of the UFC. What the hell is going on here? I mean, yes, I get it. You're going to take testosterone boosters, and then you need to take an estrogen blocker. I get it, but when are these guys going to figure out that shit don't fly?
Nope.
I mean, it's your living you're fucking with at this point.
You know what the UFC is living right now?
What's that?
Baseball's problem. When Jose Canseco came out and said, some of these motherfuckers are on the juice, and people went, no. Darryl Strawberry and those guys were on coke, but they were never on the juice. And they went, Mark McGuire? No, not on juice. even though that motherfucker just looked like a fucking muscle walking out to the plate.
You ever see him play in person?
No, not in person.
You want to talk about? I always get the comments that I'm a big guy. You're a big guy. You're thick.
Right.
This guy made me look like a fucking Ethiopian, man. This guy was just, bulging. Just looked like a freaking what's that guy? The Fantastic Four, the Rock guy.
Oh yeah, the thing. Yeah.
Just a big dude. I don't know how that guy swung a bat. I straight up do not. A lot like Barry towards the end.
Well, see, here's my problem with the Major League Baseball's Writers Association and Major League Baseball in general. I have a problem with how they want to nitpick at when they want to come down on people, look at people like they're fucking idiots.
Yeah
because you have somebody like Pete Rose, Charlie Hustle. Call him whatever you want to call him as far as bad names go for gambling when he was a manager. But what he contributed to the game as a player gets him into the Hall of Fame. Not what he did as a manager. You want to sit here and say, hey, you're banned from baseball for gambling as a manager. Okay, fine. I'm okay with that because you messed with the integrity of the game. I get it. But as a player, he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yes, agreed.
Like, there shouldn't be this asterisk of, we want him to be at the All-Star game because it's in Cincinnati. Or we're retiring his number at Cincinnati, but hey, you're still banned. Like, it doesn't fucking work like that. Which, coming back to my point of Barry Bonds, you look at people like Andy Pettitte, Alex Rodriguez. Now, granted, Roger Clemens, those are Yankees.
Yeah.
Okay? Who all came forward and at first said, I didn't do steroids, and then got busted and went, okay, I did do steroids. All of them were okayed and brought back with open arms to the game of baseball.
Yep.
And the worst one by far being Alex Rodriguez.
Yeah.
By far.
Yeah. By a long shot.
Barry Bonds, say what you want. I saw the pictures of what he looked like in Pittsburgh with Bobby Bonilla. Yes, he was scrawny when he was in Pittsburgh, but he also grew in age as he got there. So he was going to get thicker.
He was a kid in Pittsburgh, straight up.
So getting to San Francisco, he was going to be thicker. Now, did he need to blow up to what he was when he hit 73 home runs and all that? No. In my personal opinion, do I believe he was on the juice? Yeah. But was there anybody that ever proved it? Was there ever a bad piss test?
Yeah.
Was there ever anything that came forward and said, hey, man, we got you. We got your syringes. We got something.
Some kind of smoking
gun.
gun.
An inkling.
Yeah.
Just an inkling. Like a maybe.
Well,
never happened.
Don't they still got his boy locked up?
Yeah. Like, literally, you took him to court, and they didn't have enough evidence in court to do anything.
Yeah.
What do you got? Well, we have a soda can that has it. Okay, well, what's on the soda can? Well, we don't really have much to show. You're going to tell me that you're going to allow people like Rafael Palmeiro to lie in front of Congress, which Congress shouldn't have been involved in the first place in baseball. Let's be honest. We can talk about shitty government situations.
Yeah.
But you're going to allow guys like that to come forward and say, no, I didn't. And then they come out and they get caught. And then all the writers want to go, okay, well, anybody that was in that era that we think was on steroids, they're not getting in. You couldn't prove that Barry Bonds was on steroids.
Yeah.
By definition of stats, statistically, Barry Bonds is the greatest hitter in the game of baseball. I'm sorry. By home run and power.
Yeah.
It's just statistically a fact. There shouldn't be an asterisk. Does he pass the eyeball test? No. I don't think anybody would say that he passed the eyeball test.
For sure.
But when you have proof and cold hard facts, then you got nothing on him. About it. And so, to me, that's my problem. Is that guys like that, like you said, Griffey's like the clean guy. Yeah. Griffey played the game the right way. He just had talent.
Yeah.
And his dad, it was in his blood.
Yeah, it was a blood thing, yeah.
The dude was a stud. But baseball needs to get over this bullshit of everybody cheats, so they're not in, and some guys we can welcome back with open arms, and other guys we're going to treat like they're blackballed. No, fuck you. You don't even play the game. You write an article. Go out there and stand at the plate. Don't even take a bat. Just stand there and watch a 97-mile-an-hour fastball go past your chest.
Yeah.
Then you can say something.
Yeah. The whole steroid argument, too, with the hitters, and I was saying this when McGuire and Sosa were going back and forth before Bonds even got there.
Before Sammy Sosa decided he wanted to be Michael Jackson.
Because there was already discussion about these two, about Sosa and McGuire potentially being juiced, before anything came out. And I was having a conversation with one of the guys at work one day, and I said, here's the deal. I played baseball up until high school. And like you said, until you stand at the plate and someone throws at you that hard, you don't understand what kind of mindset it takes to play the game. Let alone somebody like Bonds, who even without the home run record, could be regarded as one of the best contact hitters, much like Willie Mays, of all time. It takes skill to hit that fucking ball.
That's what I was going to say right now. Like,
zones.
I don't give a fuck how many syringes you stick in your butt cheek.
It doesn't help.
It doesn't help hand-eye coordination.
Yeah. Now, granted, if you have, here's the flip side of that argument, is that if you are juiced and you do have that hand-eye to knock the shit out of the ball, that ball's not going to stay anywhere in the park, which led to the speculation, in my opinion, because that guy, let's just say it, that guy was hitting fucking balls that Martians weren't hitting, man.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody had ever seen balls hit as far as that guy.
He was hitting boats in McCubby Cove.
I know, and it's like, and you sit there and you go, how the fuck is he doing that? Well, he has to be juiced. Nobody's that strong.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, but if you take Barry Bonds' natural hitting ability, which we saw in Pittsburgh, way before the Giants, way before any talk of home run derbies or anything, we saw him in Pittsburgh. I grew up watching. I was a bigger baseball fan than football fan back then, and it was Barry Bonds and Bonilla that I used to love to watch on the Mets because they were fucking good. Okay, I said that wrong. The Pirates.
Yeah.
Okay, I used to love to watch those two. Now Bonilla ended up with the Mets, and Bonds went elsewhere. But those two guys, marquee hitters. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's why the whole thing of Bonds being May's godson and all of that stuff, that plays into it because he's a contact hitter. He had someone who knew the game teaching him from day one.
Yeah.
So, yes, Rose does belong in the Hall of Fame. I totally believe it. If you're not going to push all these steroid guys out, that era, and keep them out, then there's no reason to keep Pete Rose out. There's no reason to keep him out. And he's a cool guy, by the way. I got to meet him at an autograph shop in Vegas.
Well, we saw him, remember?
Yeah,
the first time we saw him.
Yeah, and I did get to meet him the time before that. So it's
I'm not going to lie, he looks old as shit, but...
Yeah, so that argument, yeah. So going back, Mendez, I mean, dude, you're coming off of 2 decent fights. I mean, you're obviously still...
No, he got knocked out. He got slapped by Frankie Edgar.
He did, but...
And then he lost to McGregor.
Again, he's still one of the marquee matchups, though. He's a guy. Here's
the issue that I have. You want to tell me that some Joe Schmo no-name is coming up in the fight game and gets popped? Okay. You're trying to keep up with guys like Chad Mendes, Frankie Edgar, Mark Hunt, John Jones and Daniel Cormier, Rafael Dos Anjos, Eddie Alvarez, all these guys. Okay. Now, I believe that shit. Like, I'd have that wouldn't rub me the wrong way at all. My problem is you got household name fighters that for as young and as like non-mainstream as the UFC is and MMA is in general, these are the guys that have helped build this company into a household name now, and these are the dumb shits that are getting popped. Like, really? Like, what are you afraid that these young guys are gonna come fucking get you? Because guys like Sage Northcutt look like fucking Thor when they get in the cage?
Yeah.
I mean, Sage Northcutt had a 6-pack when he was 8.
We both know you're at the age already. We've talked about this before. That's a kid's body, though. Mm. When he starts to turn into a man, he's gonna put weight on in places he doesn't want. He won't have the 8-pack there.
Right.
He looks like that right now. Physical specimen. What is he? 19?
I believe so.
19 years old. I mean, it's easy to look like that at that age. At 25, 26, it's gonna be a different story. Will he keep himself in top-notch shape? Yeah, he's a UFC. He's a marketable UFC fighter right now. Right now he is.
Yeah.
In 3 or 4 years may be his time where he's getting these championship runs. But he's not going to be able to maintain that. So I'm curious what these guys are thinking. How old is Mendez? 30? 28?
I believe he's right around 30.
So what the hell are you trying to do? You gave Conor a run for his money up until the point where you got knocked out. I mean, it's not like it was such a one-sided fight like the Edgar fight. Yeah. I mean, it looked like a close fight, and there could even be an argument on the table if you have a full training session going into that. It probably goes 5 rounds.
Yeah.
But what the fuck's going through your head? I'm a big fan of the guys, especially after the McGregor fight.
He's a hometown guy. Yeah. He's from Hanford.
I know, and just bad decisions, man.
Yep.
Bad decisions. I mean, we talked about the USADA's list and how it's pretty descriptive, and
Well, speaking of the list, moving on from Chad Mendes real quick here, Brock Lesnar's assessment of what's going on, all he said is, we're going to get to the bottom of this. A source close to what's going on has confirmed that what he got popped for was the same shit that John Jones got popped for, and estrogen blockers. And I forget what the full, medical term for it is. It's a specific one. It's one of the two that John Jones got busted for. But it's the same fucking thing. The testosterone jacked up. You got to compensate for the estrogen overkill to match. So you knock that out with the blocker.
So we were talking last week. You got me into listening to Fighter and the Kid.
Yeah.
And Ed O'Neill, when I was listening to, he was talking a little bit about Lesnar's test. Mm-hmm. And he's saying, why the fuck do you think he got the first exemption?
Yeah.
It's because they knew he was dirty.
Well,
they knew he was.
Because the process is 4 months out. If you retire, you have to be tested for 4 months before they say, okay, we're going to come back and fight. He got the only exemption, and then they tested the shit out of him after those 4 months were up.
Yeah. So he talked about it a lot on there, and he said, everybody knew he was dirty. It wasn't a question of, was he going to be dirty? It was, when was he going to be dirty?
Yep.
And lo and behold, 1, 2, here we go. Well,
my problem is this, is that the UFC, the Fertitas, I should say, not the UFC, the Fertitas, this gives the UFC a black eye for sure. But on the overall, the Fertitas look like a couple of dicks selling on this. You want to talk about selling your stock at an all-time high and then dipping? Holy shit.
Okay, so I'm going to call you, you're a mainstream fan.
Okay.
You've got Lesnar, you've got Jones out, pending a suspension.
He's looking at 2 years.
Yeah, you're Lesnar with a dirty test on the table.
The only way that comes back is if somehow those samples were either tainted or what he was taking had shit in it.
Yeah. So you got Jones
2
out.
years.
You got Lesnar pending. Now you got Mendez with a dirty test.
Mm-hmm.
How does this affect you as a fan?
Me as a fan, it doesn't necessarily hurt me. Lesnar doesn't hurt as a fan because it was supposed to be a one-off. Like, nobody's surprised. Like he said, like, if you looked at him, he's like, I'm a jacked white boy, get over it. Not really, motherfucker. Like, it wasn't that simple. So the Lesnar one doesn't bother me. Mendez losing his last 2 fights the way that he did by knockout, it's like, okay, you feel like you lost a step, you had to do something. Mm-hmm. Okay, I get it. But the Bones one, if I'm speaking not of personal opinion, but as general public, that one hurts the most. Because we talked about this on the other episode on Monday, that when going through last Friday when you came back, that looking at John Jones, he was the abusive boyfriend.
Yeah.
That people were like, you don't know him like I know him. They'll keep coming back to him.
Welcome him back.
Yeah, over and over again. But at some point, you have to realize that what he did was fucked up. And he's considered by many, many people one of, if not the greatest fighter to ever step in the cage. So to turn around and say, hey man, we'll see you in 2 years, it ain't going to be a problem. Bullshit.
Yeah. You're
going to be forgotten in 2 years. And this ties into wrestling very well.
Yeah.
As that's going to be our, main topic today. Is when a guy gets hurt in professional wrestling, one of the biggest fears you'll hear them talk about is, are they going to remember me when I come back? Because you're off TV, you're out of the public eye, you're not seen, you're not being talked about, you're not in 3 million viewers' homes every week. What do? That's going to be John Jones.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get 6 months. Not now, motherfucker.
No,
not now. Your second sample came back dirty for the same shit? Nah. Just based on him being irresponsible that way. And for people to accept him the way that they have after all these fuck-ups says a lot about the society that we live in.
Yeah.
Because if you push this back 10 years, 15 years, fuck John Jones, get him out of here, would be the attitude. He doesn't deserve to be here.
I think 15 years even more so. Yeah.
Now, give him a second chance.
Yeah.
Everybody deserves a second chance.
Yeah.
No, some people don't. I'm sorry. This goes back to what we talked about all people are not equal.
Yeah.
In certain aspects of life. This is one of them. You don't treat Daniel Cormier the same way you treat John Jones. Daniel Cormier is clean. To this point, he's never had any issue. That's never even been a thought in anybody's mind. If anything, everybody's looked at him like, he's too fucking good. clean of a guy.
Yeah.
He's too scot-free. I don't fucking like that. You look at John Jones and you go, well, this guy's a fuck up. Yeah, but I like him. Like, I like how he fights. Like, give another chance. He's dominant in the cage. I like watching him. Like, no. If I'm the new ownership of the UFC, I said this on the last podcast, bye, John Jones.
Yeah.
You're no longer welcome here. You can go fight in Bellator. And yes, does that help the competition? Yeah, it does. Because more people are going to watch Bellator. But I guarantee you that other stars in the 2 years that John Jones is gone,
the people will come up.
Those people are going to get built up. They're going to find a new star. They're going to make... Nobody knew who the fuck Conor McGregor was 3 years ago.
Yeah, and that's
he was getting social welfare in Ireland, which equaled what he was getting a week or a month or whatever it was, or 2 weeks, was roughly about $235 every 2 weeks. And then he got a phone call that said, hey man, in 6 weeks, we want you to debut with the UFC. Now he's where he's at now. Because he played the game and he played his cards right.
Yep.
If you play your cards right and get your opportunities up, Sage Northcutt's a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Motherfucker's 19.
Yep.
He's got plenty of room and plenty of time to get better and to play his cards the way that he needs to get to the top.
Yeah.
Nobody else in that division is going to have that opportunity for somebody that's 19.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely somebody's nephew.
You know? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, we talked about that. So transitioning that into wrestling, I did read one of the articles I did read. How does Lesnar's bad test translate to WWE? Now I know contract-wise it doesn't affect him, but he's got a dirty test with USADA now. Is USADA affiliated with the WWE?
No, because, and I read up on this actually, because they were talking about, does this affect Brock Lesnar for SummerSlam in August?
Yeah.
The answer is no. Athletic commissions, just like, as in Nevada, as it is in New York, they license fighters individually. But it is professional fighting. And you know as well as I do, WWE is not professional fighting. It is, like you said, sports entertainment. Injury, yes. Risk, yes. But two guys standing in there trying to knock the other guy's head off? No. They want you to believe that, but that's not really what it is. And so when push comes to shove, New York's Athletic Commission, because, and I say New York because that's where SummerSlam's at, is in Brooklyn, New York. Mm-hmm. They're not going to do anything. They've already said we don't have any jurisdiction over sports entertainment. He's not a contracted fighter as a pro athlete with the WWE. With the UFC, he is. WWE looks at them as independent contracted entertainers, not as independent athletes.
Okay.
So there's a loophole that gets him out of that as far as that goes. Now, as far as what the WWE does, that's different.
I can't really see them doing anything because while my experience is mostly limited to pre-2002 WWE, WWF, whatever you want to call it, I don't see them making a fuss over this because it's well known that many of their guys are on some type of performance enhancing, albeit it's not really performance enhancing in sports entertainment. It's probably more considered bodybuilding, I guess you could say. You know, these guys have to look a certain type.
Right.
You know, they got to have the muscles. They got to have the show body because really that's what
you can tell with guys that are in wrestling who've been on the road for a long time and who's coming off of like a break or an injury. When guys come back from injury or from a break of some sort, whether they're written off TV or whatever, they come back and they have a six-pack and they have definition and they're toned up like a motherfucker. Guys and girls that are on the road all year long, by the time they get to certain point, like don't get me wrong, there's certain shows like WrestleMania where they don't have to wrestle on live events all week long, but they're doing like stuff in the community. But they have time to go to the gym. They have time, and they're getting their eating right leading into that. So they look good for shows like that. But by and large, when somebody's been on the road for 6 months, 8 months, you'll start to see their body will show it. Because they don't have time to eat, go to the grocery store and cook food because they're too busy getting on a plane or driving to the next town. They got to go to Wendy's and get a bacon wrap and try to make the best out of some of the shit like that. Or they go to Panera Bread and try and do what they can at Panera Bread. That's where you'll see that. The image in the WWE is everything. You look at guys in the UFC, that's not true. Mark Hunt does not look like he's in shape. Roy Nelson sure as fuck don't look like he's in shape.
Big country.
You know, the heavyweights don't look like Brock Lesnar. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
You know, that's why people raised their eyebrow and went, I don't know, this dude's fucking slimmed down to 265 and he looks like this? Like, it was a big question on that. That raised a lot of questions. If you look at certain guys, like you look at Rockhold in that at the 185 division, he's always got a six-pack. Rockhold looks solid. But you look at Anderson Silva, that's not what he looks like.
Yeah.
That's not what he looks like. He's never really had a six-pack. He looks like he's in shape, but you don't see him look like he's sculpted. That's a difference. And like you said, in the WWE, image is everything.
Yeah, definitely.
Are you marketable? Is your look marketable? You know, the stuff that they're doing with a lot of these guys and pushing them to the front of the line and pushing them down people's throats and putting them on posters and their look has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
So, yeah, the WWE, I don't foresee the WWE doing anything to Brock Lesnar. Especially since they announced that he was fighting Randy Orton in Brooklyn at SummerSlam. Like, what are you going to do now? Tell Randy Orton, sorry. Like, we don't got nothing for you now.
Yeah.
And Randy Orton's coming off of a shoulder surgery and recovery that he's had chronic issues with for years. So, he's coming back off of not being on TV. You're going to let that guy turn around and go, hey, man, I know we announced all this, but we're going to hold you back.
Yeah, different with sports entertainment, definitely.
Yeah.
So Monday night, right when we got done, we were watching Rollins and Ambrose.
Rollins and Ambrose finished in
chat.
controversial fashion. Both shoulders were down.
Okay,
Referee.
we watched it. Whose shoulders were down?
Both.
Okay, we watched it.
Yes.
I'm not saying the ruling and what was on TV.
Both guys' shoulders were down. They showed.
No, there was a shoulder up. You need,
Whose shoulders
you need to
were
rewatch that. Ambrose's shoulder, right shoulder, was off the ground.
Maybe I do need to
You need
rewatch
to
that.
look at that and you need to pay attention to Ambrose's right shoulder. It's kicked up off the ground.
Maybe. But they used it in controversial fashion.
Yes. And
then led into Tuesday night's live SmackDown. There's the first live SmackDown. They're now on the USA Network. From now on, it will all be live. It's not taped any longer. They used to tape SmackDown on Tuesdays, and then it would air on TV on Thursdays.
Now, USA is broadcasting Raw, or
yes,
okay.
yeah, they've been a big proponent of Raw.
Now, Raw has more competition on Mondays than SmackDown does on Tuesdays.
Well, yes, so just based on, like, if you go through, because there is no off season in the WWE.
Yeah, it's year round.
So you're competing against Monday Night Football.
Yeah,
you're competing against award shows when they get moved to Mondays. You know what I mean? Like, because there's not every award show is on Sunday nights. So, yeah, Raw definitely faces more competition Monday nights than SmackDown will on Tuesday.
Did that instigate the split to possibly grab more viewers on a different night?
No.
Because the split, this is the second time this has happened.
Yes.
Where they split SmackDown.
The last time it
Raw.
happened was in 2002.
Yeah, that was when I stopped watching.
Yeah.
So, they had draft Tuesday night,
yes.
Correct? It was Tuesday night?
Yeah, Tuesday.
Okay. So, obviously, Ambrose and Rollins are going to go 1 and 2.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. This is what happened is the brand split had been something that had been talked about for a long time behind the scenes. There was a lot of guys that they said, oh, yeah, we can do this. But then last year, rolling into WrestleMania, there were so many guys that were hurt. It was ridiculous. Like, WrestleMania's card for AT&T Stadium where they were like, we're putting in 105,000 people in this motherfucker. They didn't have the roster that they could have. Like, there was a lot of guys that you looked at and went, he's missing, this guy's gone.
That's not the one you were at.
No, I was at 31. This was 30, this was 32. So, you know, it was different. So, they had been talking about doing a split, but they wanted everybody healthy. They wanted a good reason to do something like this. And SmackDown going live on Tuesdays was a good one, a good way to bring it in. And the other thing is the business side of it. It's the same reason why it was driven before. It covers twice as much ground in 1 week, which equals more ticket sales, which equals more money, more merch sales, more network subscribers. And if you want to see certain guys, you got to watch
it on that night.
So you get more viewers, which equals more ratings.
Now, my understanding, SmackDown has the better roster now than Raw does. Or
it's subjective.
Is that an opinion?
It's a subjective thing because if you're looking at the up and coming guys who can fucking work, that have come off the indies, who have been in NXT and all that, that's SmackDown. The draft Tuesday was that for every 2 picks that SmackDown got, Raw got 3 because Raw's show is 3 hours and SmackDown's show is only 2. Okay. And for Raw, I mean, when you have everybody on there, they were having a hard time filling out 3 hours.
Yeah.
You know, but now you just split the roster in half, and now you got to fill out 3 hours.
So some of the notable names that Raw ended up with, Seth Rollins, obviously.
Well, we'll go over the picks on some of the high-end picks.
So Raw.
For Raw, the number 1 pick, Raw got the number 1 pick overall. They took Seth Rollins. And for those of you who don't know, Stephanie McMahon is running Raw as the commissioner. Mick Foley is their GM. Okay. So they took Seth Rollins number 1. Shane McMahon is running SmackDown, or SmackDown Live as it's being called now. And Daniel Bryan is his GM, which it's a brilliant move to have both of those guys and Daniel Bryan and Mick Foley on TV because people want to see Daniel Bryan, even though he's no longer allowed to wrestle due to concussions. It's a great thing for SmackDown to draw viewers in just based on that. They went number 2, and their first pick was Dean Ambrose, who currently is the WWE champion. So that was kind of an obvious thing because you go Rollins number 1 and you make him the guy that is the future. Yeah. You know, before he blew up his knee back in November of last year, he was carrying the company on his back. He was the champion for a long time. And I felt like Dean Ambrose was a guy who he was getting a lot of love from the crowd, but they just kind of moved him around here and there. They let him run with the Intercontinental title. They let him run here and there. But they never really went, hey, man, if we put you up at the top in the main event, let's see how people react. Yeah. And they kind of shocked everybody by letting him cash in at Money in the Bank and walking out the champion. So, you know, it was obvious that they needed to put the championship as a number 1 pick, no matter which show it was going to be, to hold up the prestige of the championship. Mm-hmm. So Ambrose goes number 1 to SmackDown, but number 2 pick overall. Then Raw does Raw's pick was kind of a big move to show like where we are as far as the women's division because Charlotte went number 2 to Raw. So for those of you who don't know who Charlotte is, she is legitimately Ric Flair's daughter. Her real name is Ashley Flair. She's only been in the wrestling business for 4 years. Wow. She was a personal trainer before that. She went to college on a volleyball scholarship. And then decided, you know, I'm going to get my degree and become a personal trainer. And then once she did that, she was around and did some stuff as far as, you know, being backstage and stuff. And they went, this is what you need to do. This is, you know, a family business. It's in your blood. And she went, I don't know, you know, and her brother talked her into it and she jumped in both feet. And in short time, she quickly became the top prospect in NXT. And eventually, she's now been the champion longer than any other women's champion. Wow. She's set the record as far as many days in a row. So that was a big deal for the women. Then the second pick for SmackDown I felt was really solid. They went AJ Styles, which was number 4 pick overall, number 2 to SmackDown. They went ahead and went with AJ Styles, and it was interesting to me because you had to figure they had to have somebody that was going to bring a different element to the show. That you didn't just want to have, oh, well, this show's got these guys, this show's got these guys, and this show, yeah, you got a few workers here, a few workers there. SmackDown legitimately has the show with people where you go, fuck, those guys can go. Mm-hmm. Like, majority of their roster can go. And, I mean, AJ Styles is AJ Styles. He has his own name. And right now, he's being looked at in the company as a huge deal. Right now, he's a bad guy, and he's doing a hell of a job. So, that was a great job by the WWE brass people to go, okay, those 4 are the top. Those 4 are the people that we're looking at that, you know, sit here and go, hey, man, these people are the future. We're not bringing up old guys. We're not bringing up, you know, oh, John Cena's number 1. He doesn't need to be number 1. people need to see where the future's going. And those 4 right there,
those are the 4.
Those are the 4 that are going to lead the way. Next came John Cena. He went number 5 to SmackDown, that's a good spot for him. You know, it shows that he's still relevant, but he doesn't have to be the guy that's number 1 where they're shoving John Cena down your throat. You know.
So outside of their initial picks, is there depth to sustain the show?
Yes, because they're going to fill out the show no matter what. So there's going to be people that, even though they did the draft on Tuesday, that by the time they start running these shows in a regular fashion, you're going to see guys that weren't drafted. You're going to see guys that weren't on the show before that they brought back.
Okay.
So they're looking at talent to fill out the show for sure.
So is it these are? I'm assuming this is a lot like an NFL draft where you're going to draft your marquee players in your first umpteen rounds, whatever it is,
right?
And then you're going to be bringing in talent outside of that just to kind of fill spots and holes as needed,
right?
Injuries, vacations, whatever it is wrestlers do,
right?
I would assume that's
the big thing was a lot of people have been waiting on Finn Balor to be brought up to the main roster, especially with Gallows and Carl Anderson being brought up. They're even playing off of their name. They were part of the Bullet Club when they were in New Japan Pro Wrestling. AJ Styles was the leader of the Bullet Club, and he took over for Finn Balor while they were in Japan. When Finn left and signed with NXT, AJ Styles was the guy that replaced him.
Okay.
So they were playing off all that. So people were waiting for Finn Balor to be brought up and be put together with those guys. And instead they put AJ with him, and they're calling him the Club. And because obviously they don't own the Bullet Club rights. So they call him the Club. Well, as of Tuesday night, they got drafted to separate shows.
Yeah.
So the Club goes to Raw, AJ goes to SmackDown.
Yeah.
What do you do? Well, the way that they sold it on TV was that it was, divide and conquer. We're still boys. We're on this show. They're on that show. We're running the whole fucking company. Well, the number 6 pick was Finn Balor.
Yeah.
To Raw, which means the Club, Gallows and Anderson, are now on the same show as Finn Balor, which is what people have been waiting for a very long time. So it could definitely get interesting with what they do with Finn Balor and how they put those together.
So Albert Del Rio ended up on SmackDown.
Alberto Del Rio, yeah.
Okay. Past champion? Still marketable at that range, or is he just a fill-in spot there to kind of give some notoriety to the bottom half of that roster?
Since he's been back, they haven't really used him in the right way. When he left, he was the number 1 marketable Hispanic wrestler in the world. Mm-hmm. Every promotion wanted him. They were throwing money at him. He was gone for a little while and then decided to come back. But since he's been back, they really haven't decided, like, hey, he's the guy we need to push. There's been moments where they went, here, you're up here. And then the next week they're like, well, you're back to the middle. So, I mean, in their eyes, it looks like he's more of a filler. That he's a good guy that can work. They know he can go. So, okay, we'll put you with some of these young guys and have you go. And the problem with this in real life is he's dating one of the women's wrestlers. And they sent her to the other show.
It's tough.
So, rumor has it is that they're not happy about being split up. Which has been for many years a known tactic of Vince McMahon to put people together and split people up on purpose in hopes that that shit in real life gets brought up on TV, which has happened several times before, where people that weren't necessarily together behind the scenes in real life wind up together because they have so much TV time together.
Yeah.
Or hey, these people are together behind the scenes, but it's not good for business, and they split them up, and then the relationship winds up floundering and it doesn't last.
Yeah.
So,
and it's not like they're just gonna quit or something.
Yeah, it's not like they're just gonna walk. So
some other names that I noticed went on SmackDown: Dolph Ziggler.
Yep.
Kane.
Yep.
The Miz.
Yeah. Well, him and his wife, his real life wife, Maurice. If you want to see her, look her up. She's legitimately French, and she actually posed in Playboy's internet thing. So if you look at him,
what's her name?
Maurice. Just look up WWE's Maurice. If you look at him and you look at her, you'd be like, He's a howdy. Like, how the fuck did you wind up with her? Yeah. He came from the real world.
She reminds me of Stacy Keibler.
A little. Not as tall. She don't have the legs like Stacy did. When you look at him, he came from MTV's The Real World. Legit.
Really?
And then decided, I want to be a wrestler and did the training, and he's done well in the WWE as far as being a bad guy, but they legitimately brought his wife in. She was a wrestler before. That's how they met each other. So, I mean, it's pretty crazy. And she complements his character well right now.
Does she?
Yeah. One of the things that I think is going to be beneficial to a lot of these wrestlers and characters is that when you look at these names, some of these people, a guy like Dolph Ziggler, who is a great worker, who you feel like, as a fan, you feel like, man, that guy should be more involved in a title picture, whether it's the Intercontinental title, the heavyweight title. He should be with some of these upper level guys. He shouldn't be letting the newer guys beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
This is going to force the WWE's hand and creatively to get behind some of these guys because the show's thin. You only have so many guys on each show. So you're going to have to get behind some of these guys and girls that you might not have if you had a full roster with them put together.
Yeah.
So it'll definitely, I think, be beneficial to a lot of these athletes.
So I had a question on something I did read.
Okay.
If I can find it here. All right. So we talked a little bit before we came on air about the Intercontinental and the U.S. champion.
Yes.
Okay. Now they were taken, granted, behind some of the non-champions. Maybe some. I guess you would say some of the younger ones. So you had the Miz taken down. I'm gonna say low, but towards the middle, and Rusev taken middle low.
Yeah.
Does that impact the significance of their championships?
Yes, because one of the biggest problems they've had in the last several years is building up a championship with the equality of the heavyweight title. Everybody knows that if you're in this business, you want to be the world heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
But if you go back and watch old tapes and old videos, you will see that they built up the Intercontinental title to mean something.
Oh man!
And generally, if you were Intercontinental champion, that was the stepping stone to push you into the heavyweight title picture. Yeah. So, and that's not the case anymore. That for a lot of it, it's just kind of floundered back and forth. They had a good run with the Intercontinental title where they had a stretch where Daniel Bryan had it for a minute before he had to give it up due to the injuries. Kevin Owens had it for a minute where it had a good run.
No, we're talking late 2000s, right?
No, we're talking about like recently.
Okay.
Those guys had the opportunity to make it better, but then WWE's brass decides, we're going to yank it off of them. The problem is when you have a champion, if you look at the territories, a guy was the champion for months and months and months at a time. If you're a bad guy, you cheated, and then you got the fuck out of there with the title.
If you were Honky Tonk Man, Rick Rude.
If you were a good guy, they found a way that you got the shit kicked out of you for weeks leading into your championship match, but then miraculously you made this big old comeback in that match and somehow found a way to win.
Yeah,
that's not how they look at things now. A lot of people look for, what's a bad guy nowadays? Because a lot of the bad guy or guys that are supposed to be playing bad guy characters are getting cheered. Or the wrestlers themselves are looking at things from the audience where they're getting cheers of, this is awesome, or, shit like that. Or the holy shit chants, stuff like that. And that's not what it is. One of the biggest advocates of being a bad guy right now is Chris Jericho. And he has a total formula for being a bad guy. And one of the things he does not allow is for the WWE to sell his merchandise when he's a bad guy. So that way, for whatever reason, if you like him as a bad guy, you can't buy his merchandise. You can't cheer him. Oh, I like him. He's a bad guy. Yeah, fuck no. You can't have my merchandise. It's strategy so you can get somebody to truly dislike you or truly make you feel it. If you watch the CM Punk Best in the World DVD, at one point he did what was called the straight edge society, because in real life he is straight edge. He doesn't do drugs, he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, anything like that. And at the time, he had a female wrestler, he had Joey Mercury, and he had Doc Gallows, who was with the company during his first run. And the idea was that, like, he was their straight edge savior, is what it was. And that he was making them pure and making them better, and that he was a bad guy because he shit on the crowd for being people that drank and smoked and that, were bad people. And he says he can recall that the homework he did was watching, like, Benny Hill late at night and watching, like, some of these evangelists that were on late night infomercials and TV and taking some of the stuff from there and taking some different stuff. And they asked him straight up, like, on the DVD, was the girl that was in there, I forget what her name was, was she your Mary Magdalene? And he was like, no doubt. He's like, there's a reason why I called Luke Gallows Luke, and instead of calling Joey Mercury, he called him Joseph Mercury. Like, there was hints of that stuff in the story, and he goes, I can remember being in a town at a live event, and he goes, we're literally walking to the ring, and he goes, I have this lady who's like 60, who's standing right at the guardrail, and looks at me and goes, you're not Jesus, and you're going to hell. And he goes, and I look over at Gallows, who in real life, they're really close friends, and he goes, we got him. Like, we got her. like it's, it's that suspense of belief that these people really believe that the character that you see on TV is who these motherfuckers are.
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot of that right now. There's not a lot of these guys that are willing to buy in to these characters and turn them up to 11 and be an extension of themselves.
Well, one of the most memorable ones I'm ever going to remember that did that almost to a T was Sergeant Slaughter.
Yes.
When they brought him back and he was representing the Iraqis.
Yes.
The Iron Sheik.
He was getting death threats.
Yes,
for being an Iraqi supporter.
I mean, just if you think about the role that guy played in that era around the time of the first Gulf War, you're thinking, holy cow, what the hell are you, suicidal? But that was their writers saying, we know how to grab this. Watch this. And leading up to him and Hulk Hogan's match, of course, Hulk Hogan, the All-American and what have you, the character that was written out. I think that's a testament to writers, though. How much are you...
There's a problem with that, though. Because what you used to have is like 5 writers. And everything gets filtered through Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
It still does. If you want to listen to a podcast, go listen to Talk is Jericho, which is Chris Jericho's podcast. He has Freddie Prinze Jr. on there. Or, what's the other one? There's another one that has Freddie Prinze Jr. on there. And I believe it is, it might be The Fighter and the Kid that has Freddie Prinze Jr. He at one time was a writer for the WWE.
Freddie Prinze Jr.?
Yeah.
Really?
He wrote the storylines where Jeff Hardy became the WWE champion.
Wow.
Yeah, that was his big, like, claim to fame as a writer. Yeah. So when you listen to that, he's like, dude, there's like 20 writers in the room. And they just, they sit here and they come up with all these ideas and all this shit. And then they go to Vince and go, here, this. Well, not only does that happen, but they also are the people that write promos for these wrestlers. When you look at a guy like CM Punk, when you look at a guy like Stone Cold Steve Austin, when you look at a guy like Shawn Michaels, when you look at a guy like, who would be another guy that didn't give a shit?
Bret Hart?
No, not Bret Hart. No. But back in that time frame, but CM Punk being more modern, there was a lot of times where in a modern era, like CM Punk, he's admitted this, that writers would come up and go, here's your promo for tonight. This is what you're going to say on the microphone. And him go, oh, thanks. And then crumple it up and throw it in the fucking trash can before he walked out. Because these people don't know you. Yeah. These people are just, I'm assigned to this guy. They don't know what your character is. They don't know how you sound or how, they don't... When they write you a promo, they want you to, nowadays, the big argument is, why is it not like the Attitude Era? Well, for one thing, the WWE is a public traded company. That's a big part of it. They are a public traded company with corporate sponsors. So if you fuck that up by being too risque on TV, guess what happens to a bunch of that cash flow? Gone or cut down severely. So they script a lot more.
Yeah.
You don't have guys like Stone Cold and Shawn Michaels and Mick Foley where they went, hey, here's your bullet points. Go out here and figure it out. You got 3 minutes to talk. That doesn't happen anymore. You can see on certain guys' faces, and a big problem with it is Roman Reigns right now. He's been off TV for the last month because he got popped for the wellness policy. Now he's going to be coming back to TV. Before that, he at one point admitted that he was going to acting classes to try and understand how to give facials, expressions, and stuff like that to sell a promo. Because a lot of these guys, when they talk, you can tell it's out of memory. Or that in their face that they're not selling what they're saying. Yeah. You want to look up a promo? I'll give you a promo to look up right now. Shawn Michaels, Montreal promo. When he was in a program with Hulk Hogan.
Okay.
Shawn Michaels in 2002 came back to the WWE off of a broken back.
Yeah, I remember
He had found his faith, came back from a broken back, and the big selling point was that, he's back. He's getting to do all this. He's faithful now to, his beliefs and his family. He's not a piece of shit is how they sold it.
The one where he's in a suit?
Yes. He's in like a peach shirt.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. He goes out and it's on his DVD called My Journey. It's the Hulk Hogan promo is what it is. He was in a storyline with Hulk Hogan. Hogan's shooting his show. Hogan knows best. So he's not on TV every week. Okay. So they tell Shawn, you got to carry the angle. Before he goes out on that particular promo, they said, we want Shawn Michaels from 1997. He said, you don't want that guy. They said, no, we want that guy. He goes, if I go out like the Shawn Michaels in 97, I'm going to rip him a new asshole. And you guys aren't going to like what happens. And they went, give us that. And he went, fine. Watch him go out. And it starts off like a normal promo, and he's talking, and he's looking in the camera a little bit here and there. Well, then the Canadian crowd goes ballistic because everybody knows about what happened between him and Bret Hart in Montreal.
Yeah.
So the crowd starts booing him. They start talking shit. Well, guess what?
Shawn Michaels from 97 comes out.
He starts to show that side of him, and he talks about how you think Bret Hart gives a shit. What I did to Bret Hart's going to look like nothing compared to what I do to Hulk Hogan. Well, everybody loves Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
If there was anybody that's synonymous with wrestling, it's Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
So he goes and shits on Hulk Hogan a little bit. Well, then he starts cutting into the real shit that people don't want to hear. He's like, you think they play Hulk Hogan's music, and everybody's like, oh, the crowd goes crazy, and he's like, and everybody's like, oh shit, and he starts laughing, and people are like, what? And he's like, you guys fell for it. He goes, you want to know what the truth is? Big stars like Hulk Hogan don't show up till the show's already in progress. Big guys like Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart think that they're above all this. And he just goes in on Hogan.
Oh, I definitely got to watch that.
Then he looks at the camera and goes, you asked for this. Talking to like the people in the back. And he does this. He goes like this. Like, this is going to be long. Like, he goes over his time. At one point, people start shitting on him in the crowd, and they start booing him and like turning around and like telling him to shut up. He sits down in the middle of the ring and goes, are you done? He starts doing what he used to do in 97, where he used to take his clothes off.
Yeah.
He used to start out wearing like loafers and shorts, and then he would take off his shirt or whatever, and then he would go through his promo. When he was a bad guy, when they started D-Generation X, that's a lot of what he did. Yeah. And if you look at his first program with The Undertaker, that's where that started.
Yeah.
He looked at it because the program that started with The Undertaker was him talking about, he was the referee between Bret Hart and The Undertaker. Mm-hmm. He hits Taker with a chair because Bret spit in his face, like legit, hawked a loogie and spit in his face. He swings the chair, Bret ducks, he hits Taker, costs Taker the WWE title. Everybody's like, what the fuck, you did this to him? So he's in a promo with Vince. And at the time, people didn't know who Vince McMahon was.
Yeah.
People just knew that he was a commentator. They didn't know that he ran the company.
Yeah.
So he's standing there with a microphone and he's interviewing Shawn, and all these people are pissed because they cost The Undertaker the champion, because at the time, Bret Hart was a bad guy from Canada who shit on America. He turns around and he looks at the crowd and goes, I gave you people 10 years of my life, and this is what you give me? No, all of you can kiss my ass. That's the guy that shows up in 2004, 2005, whatever it is, for the promo with Hulk Hogan. That's the kind of shit that they don't do anymore. They don't allow that anymore because they're afraid that it'll cost either money. A, the wrestler's not capable of doing that. They're going to draw a blank and freeze up, Or B, like you said, it's going to cost them money.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen the beginning of D-Generation X, you will see the promo where they make fun of Bill Clinton's speech.
I saw that one. Yeah.
Everybody knows Bill Clinton's speech. I didn't have sex with that woman or sexual relations with that woman, all that business. They took that because it's been openly said many times that they would go and do shit on TV and then come back and they would get ripped up one side down the other. And Vince McMahon going, you can't do that. You can't say that. You can't point at your dick and tell people to suck it. And they were like, okay.
And then go
right back out and do it again. They got a real letter from the USA Network. They took that letter and made a parody of Bill Clinton's speech. The uncensored version is on YouTube.
I gotta watch that.
Where they turn around and they go, from the hours of 9 to 11, we will no longer say the words damn, bitch, hell. And then they're looking at, and they have the flags in the background. It's a podium, just as if it was Bill Clinton.
Oh, wow.
And he goes, we will no longer make references to our enormous genitalia. And then they're like, he's standing there and he's like, I think Sean says, well, shit, like out loud. And the microphone picks it up, of course. And he's like, God damn it, don't say, son of a bitch. And they start going back and forth. That it's been openly said that when they came back from that, and that was aired on TV, USA Network loved it. They went, you took what we did and spun it on us. We love it. That's what started part of the Attitude Era. You're not going to see that now.
And what's funny is that's really, I don't want to say what really kicked WWE off into mainstream, because I think it was already mainstream, but I think that brought
what made it cool.
It made it every age is what it made it. It wasn't just an era anymore. It was an open they got
away
venue.
From the cartoon characters.
Yes.
Guys like Hulk Hogan were believed to be like the Incredible Hulk, hence the name Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
The Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
Randy Savage was an over the top macho man. Randy Savage. He was flamboyant. The colors, the way he talked.
The honky tonk man.
Yes.
A symbol.
Yeah.
Cartoon type. Ravishing
characters.
Rick Rude.
Yes.
A sex symbol.
Yes. The model Rick Martel.
Yeah. I mean,
there was a lot of cartoon characters. Hercules was a character. The Rockers, Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty, the Rockers, they were young guys. Their entrance music was fast. It was loud. Shit like that. They got away from them. And they went, this is the direction we're going. We want to be more real. We want to be...
And it was successful. So to see
them it was successful for the time, but the biggest problem that I have, because that happened during my childhood. I'm one of the few people that has lived that. I got to see the early 90s, where it was the dying of those cartoon characters, the end of the 80s, and then the mid 90s where it dipped. Pro wrestling took a hard dip. It wasn't cool. It wasn't popular. TV was not well with as far as markets and shit like that. And then you hit the Attitude Era where it just fucking skyrocketed.
Yeah, and you had a little bit of everything.
But you had competition. Yeah. You had WCW, you had WWE, and they were fighting, and they had to do something to compete with one another. If you don't know, WCW beat WWE 84 weeks in a row in the ratings.
Really?
It's called the Monday Night War. There's a DVD on it. It's on the network. That's what sparked a lot of the shit that was real life on TV. And that's where I say that it led to being cool, because it went from being this cartoon character where kids thought it was cool, and their parents were like, yeah, that's cool, but we like that too, because it's like when you go to a movie. Yeah. For a little while, you get away from reality.
Yeah.
Now, when they went Attitude Era, you hit fucking reality in a demographic that was 18 to 35 male.
Yeah.
You had bra and panties matches. You had guys that were telling you to suck it. You had people like Stone Cold flipping the bird and calling for beers. That's a whole different thing, and people think it's cool. Well, part of the problem with that now is people remember that.
Yeah.
And people want that. You can't. We've talked about this on this show. People are so sensitive now.
Yeah.
You cannot do half the shit that they did back then.
Yeah,
Goldust character, the Goldust character back in the day, not now, back then, was a pansexual character.
Yeah.
That's not gonna fly now.
No.
Val Venus's character was a porn star. That's not gonna fly now.
The way he spelled it.
Yeah. That's not gonna fly now. A lot of that shit that people are like, we need that. We need the blood. That shit doesn't go now. You have too many things where people go, hey man, like we want chair shots to the head. Really? They just made a fucking movie called Concussion. It's a publicly traded company. Yeah. You think the USA Network and NBC Universal wants to be affiliated with a company where they're hitting guys with legit steel chairs in the head after they're talking about CTE in the NFL and the UFC and all these sports and entities?
Yeah.
Nah. So people need to get over the fact that like what you thought you wanted from back then, that's not going to happen now.
Yeah.
Can they integrate pieces like the promo stuff where it's not as scripted? Absolutely. They can integrate that stuff all day and make their product better. Are they going to?
No.
I think it's just too micromanaged because it's a publicly traded company with sponsors.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, they have guys in commercials doing fucking Sonic commercials in the middle of the show because Sonic wants to pay for a spot in the middle of WWE Raw. So, I mean, it's one of those things where you look at this draft situation, it could be great for this company. That you're going to have to push some people that normally wouldn't get pushed. Yeah. You're going to get some new people with NXT. You're going to get some situations that you haven't had before. And that's how they're selling it is we want to be fresh. We want different matchups. We don't want you to see the same shit over and over again. Okay. Then tell me why Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins is probably going to be a feud.
Yeah.
We've been seeing that. That was before Rollins got hurt.
Yeah, probably because it was popular and they don't think they got everything out of it. I would guess.
That's definitely part of it.
They probably feel like there's more to get out of it. I mean, you know, I wouldn't say it's run its course just yet,
but the big thing is they have an opportunity to do something different.
Definitely.
And like I said, the SmackDown roster are guys that can go. One of the biggest questions right now is Bayley, who is a female wrestler from NXT. She's actually from today, the brand new episode of Talk is Jericho, she's on there. Okay. So if you listen to podcasts, the Talk is Jericho podcast with Bayley is on. It's up now on iTunes, and you can find it on there. He talks with her. She's somebody who you feel like is a homegrown character in NXT that became popular through NXT. And she's like the girl next door. Is how it comes across. She's not flashy like Ric Flair's daughter. She's not a badass like Sasha Banks. She's not the Irish foreigner like Becky Lynch. She's the homegrown girl. She actually came from San Jose. She's from the Bay.
Oh, wow.
In real life. They call themselves the Four Horsewomen is what they call themselves because they all came in pretty much the same time.
Yeah.
She's the only one that's not on the main roster. And she didn't get drafted Tuesday night. So there was a lot of people that were like, hey, what the fuck? Going into Battleground, there's a lot of speculation Sunday night because it's Charlotte and Dana Brooke versus Sasha Banks and a mystery partner.
Yeah.
There's a lot of speculation that's going to be her.
Could be interesting.
I hope so, from a personal opinion. If you're looking for a match to watch, so I gave you the Shawn Michaels promo to watch. Yeah. If you're looking for a match to watch, the what to watch for segment, we've talked about this before. Bayley versus Sasha Banks, NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. Last year, during SummerSlam week, they were looking for something to do with NXT. They wanted to do a show. So they started out at a small building. Prior to this, the biggest building NXT had done was 5,000 people at the one of the San Jose buildings during WrestleMania weekend at 30, the one that I was at.
Yeah.
So SummerSlam last year, they're going into SummerSlam last year, and they're like, we want to do something with NXT. So what we'll do is we'll do it at a smaller venue. Well, then the demand for tickets was just bananas. So then the Barclays Center, where the Nets play in Brooklyn, said, hey, man, we're already hosting SummerSlam Sunday. We're already hosting Raw Monday. Why not just do NXT Saturday night? You guys can do it here. 15,000 people sold the fuck out.
Wow.
Biggest crowd they'd ever seen. 5,000 was the biggest they had done before that.
It tripled it one night.
Yeah. Match of the night, which had Finn Balor versus Kevin Owens for the NXT Heavyweight title in a ladder match, no less. The match of the night, which won Match of the Year in the NXT Awards, Sasha Banks versus Bayley for the women's title. So if you're looking for a match to watch the women's title.
Okay.
Match from NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. is what it is. And the Shawn Michaels promo from him and Hulk Hogan. It's the Montreal
first
promo.
one I'm gonna watch.
So those are the two things to look for.
So we got pay-per-view Sunday night.
Battleground, yeah, WWE Battleground.
Okay. What time's that at?
It starts at 5 on the WWE Network. You can order it on pay-per-view, but if you have the network, it's free on the network. I tell you what, man, a lot of people bitch about how come they don't have this on the network, how come they don't have that on the network. Just in pay-per-view value, you get the fucking network for $10 a month. It's $9.99 a month. You get every pay-per-view.
Oh, wow.
If you watch WrestleMania in HD and order it on pay-per-view, it's like $70, $80. Why not watch it for $10 a month?
Yeah.
You get your bang for your buck just in that. But then they have every WCW Nitro on there, every ECW pay-per-view and weekly show on there, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, AWA on there, WWF on there. They have everything on there. And they have every previous Raw and SmackDown from the very beginning.
Huh.
And then they have certain shows that cater to just the network.
Really?
So they have a show called Ride Along. Shows guys that are riding together from show to show. It's literally them in a Lincoln Navigator with cameras in the car. And them going through what it's like to ride with somebody like that.
That's cool.
They have what's called Table for Three. They usually get 3 people together and they sit them down and have dinner and they exchange stories.
Man, talk about a job.
Right?
Jeez.
Right? I mean, legitimately, I jumped on the network just as a fan. I was like, when it came out, I was like, I'm getting it for sure. Not a problem. I'm so glad that I did because when you first started, you had to make a 6-month commitment. That was the hook from the WWE is, hey, we want subscribers, but you're going to be with us for at least 6 months. I was okay with that. I was like, I'm a fan, whatever.
Yeah.
I tell you what, man, you want to talk about a bang for your buck. I talked about UFC Fight Pass. That's like the Netflix of the UFC.
Yeah.
UFC is still fairly new, right? We've talked about this before. They're still young. They just hit UFC 200 last month.
Yeah.
They do 53 shows in 52 weeks now. Just now. The WWE goes back. Way the fuck back.
Yes.
They have everything on that network. Vince McMahon, where do you think Fight Pass and the UFC got Fight Pass, the model for that? From
WWE.
The WWE network.
One thing Vince McMahon knows is how to market his stuff.
I tell you what, that motherfucker's ahead of the game.
He's a
and
genius.
I don't know how it's going to be now in the UFC now that they have different investment company, like a group. But Dana White and the Fertitta brothers, when they ran it, were definitely running it off the model of Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
For sure. So you can find all that stuff. They have a section that's called Rivalries. And it goes over, it's like an hour-long show, each one, of rivalries and a program of guys that you love. Shawn Michaels and Triple H is one. Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat is one. John Cena and The Rock is one. They go all the way through. Then they have a Beyond the Ring section where if you've ever liked a DVD that's a documentary on a certain person, they have some of them updated.
Oh,
Not
wow.
all of them, but they have a lot of them.
That's cool.
They have a whole section like that. They have an animated adult cartoon called Camp WWE. Where it's a cartoon targeted towards that older demographic.
Yeah.
I mean, that fucking network
It's down.
has it covered.
They know what they were doing.
Yeah, fuck yeah. And they add new content every month, just like Netflix. They go through the whole thing.
Vince McMahon, as far as I can remember, man, that guy was always ahead of the curve. So
Oh, yeah.
The documentary on how he started WrestleMania.
Yeah,
It's just,
that's
I mean,
another
he
one. That's
came
on there. That's
he
on the
came
network.
up with the idea, and people laughed at him for it. But look at how successful it's turned out to be. And even back in the
32
80s,
of them.
Closed Circuit was his first one.
Yeah.
They were only hosting it at certain venues, and every venue sold out.
Can you tell me where the first one was at?
Was it Madison Square Garden?
Was it?
I want to say it was.
It was.
It was. Yeah. Okay.
Can you tell me who the guest referee and the guest ring announcers were for the main event?
I can see their faces, and I'm not going to be able to draw their names because.
The guest referee, Muhammad Ali.
Okay. And
The
then
guest ring announcer, Billy Martin, who was the manager of the Yankees
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah, they had
Liberace.
They had the Vegas showgirls dancing on there. The
Rockettes danced with Liberace.
They did.
Yep.
I mean, I remember. I didn't see it live, but I do remember seeing it a few years later. When but didn't come from a family who could afford to close circuit.
Right.
You had to go somewhere to watch it. Now,
Yeah.
I would assume in this area it would have been the Fresno Convention Center.
Well, check this out. He put all his money into building WrestleMania 1.
Yeah.
It was, and it's been said, it's a fucking gamble.
Yes, it was. Well,
because if
especially
it
with-
flopped, They had nothing.
When he went looking for investors to help him, he had a hell of a time going, how much money you want and for what? Yeah. You're kidding me. And the people who bought into it, I'm sure they got their cut and they were probably running for the hills in the early 90s or sometime, or when it seemed to hit like the pinnacle of what it was. But I'm going to tell you what, if you stuck by that company through, man, I bet you're getting some returns on what you put into that. For that kid, because Vince was very young when he put his money into WrestleMania 1. So,
Hell yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a young kid with an idea trying to sell it to investors. Woo! Good job, Vince. You really turned this into a real thick sandwich, man.
Fuck yeah. And here's another thing. I want to say, it was WrestleMania 2 or 3. I can't remember.
Piper T, that's 2.
I know, but there was, I can't remember which one it was. One of them had 3 places that they covered WrestleMania in. So you had Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York. So you had an hour worth of live product in New York. Then if you were in Chicago and at Los Angeles, they dropped down screens and you watch what happened in New York. It was WrestleMania 2 because WrestleMania 3 was at the Pontiac Silverdome.
That's right.
So WrestleMania 2 happened from 3 different places. So then if you were in the middle, Chicago, let's say it was Chicago. I don't remember which order it went in, but Chicago. When you got to hour number 2, if you were in New York or Los Angeles, the screens came down and you watched the rest of the show on those big screens.
Yeah.
Then you got to LA. Now LA takes the screens up. The show finishes in LA.
Yeah.
You want to talk about innovation? Who the fuck thinks of doing a show in 3 different places and each venue being completely full and sold out? Who the fuck thinks of that, dude?
Vince McMahon, that's who.
Yeah, no shit. You want to talk about somebody who is a brilliant mind for business.
Marketing, man.
And he's openly said that if his father was around, that shit would have never happened.
Yeah.
Never. Yeah. That he didn't believe in that. And Vince McMahon buying territories and taking over, Vince's dad was always against. Vincent J. McMahon, which is Vince's father. For those of you who don't know, Vince McMahon's full name is Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Vincent K. McMahon. Vincent J. McMahon is his father. Vincent J. McMahon would not have let that happen.
Yeah.
And for him to take a gamble like he did, man, that was some big shit.
Yes. Yes, it was.
But by and large, I mean, you can't say that the guy's completely out of touch.
No.
I mean, there's a lot of things that you look at and go, he just doesn't get it anymore because he's come from way back.
But you know what he's done is he's employed some of the best, I don't want to say some of the best, the right kind of writers, the right kind of talent. I mean, how long did The Rock's personality carry that company, How long was it able to work with somebody like Triple H? And because I'm understanding Triple H is a big part of the head of the company.
Okay, so here's what happened. Is about 31, let's see, 30. Go back to 29. Was he in 29? Yes, he was. Okay, so at 29, he still was a full-time wrestler. Vince McMahon said, hey, man, I mean, everybody knows he's married to Stephanie McMahon, Vince's daughter. Triple H's mind for the business is second to none. He was trained by Killer Kowalski. Ric Flair was a mentor because when Ric Flair came into the company after they bought WCW, the guy that he worked with was Triple H. For many years, they were part of the group Evolution. Mm-hmm. Triple H got a first-class education from Ric Flair. And on top of that, your father-in-law is Vince McMahon?
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to fucking top that.
Yeah.
You want to talk about going to the learning tree?
Yeah.
Those 3 names right there alone, man. So, for him, psychology-wise and just business savvy. For those of you who don't know, NXT is Triple H's baby. 3-4 years ago, whatever it was, before NXT became a thing, it was called FCW, Florida Championship Wrestling. They were in a warehouse. And many wrestlers have talked about it. They wrestled in front of 10 people, 15 people. Now, what happened was Vince went to Triple H and said, hey, man, we got to do something about this. And it's on you. Triple H never went to college with a business degree. He never went and looked for, that college and business mind frame. He was like, I just want to be a wrestler. I don't give a fuck about The Office. He came up with a whole business model and proposal to do NXT. NXT was a TV show that they came up with that ran on MTV. NXT stood for Next, like the guys who have Next. He took the NXT name, stuck it in the developmental brand, and now it's its own brand.
Yeah.
People want to be in NXT. People want to go, hey man, let me be in NXT and fucking run the show there. Finn Balor was the champion, the longest reigning NXT champion. Samoa Joe, who was built in TNA, is now the current champion. Bobby Roode, former TNA champion in NXT. Eric Young doesn't have a contract done yet, but has made an appearance. James Storm, TNA, made an appearance TNA in NXT. People from all around the world. Finn, formerly Fergal Devitt, which is his real name, Prince Devitt, came from New Japan Pro Wrestling, went to NXT first. Hideo Itami. Here's the biggest one that they've had in a long time besides Finn. Shinsuke Nakamura. The king of strong style is what they call him. And if you don't know what strong style is, in Japan, they don't work with working punches. They do what's called laying shit in, where they hit you for real. They kick the fuck out of you for real in the Japanese style. There's different styles. There's the Lucha Libre style, which is the Hispanic flying, more aerial style. They have the New Japan, which is called strong style, where they legitimately kick the fuck out of you and punch you for real. Then you have what's called the WWE style, where it's a different thing. It's different styles that you have. They call Shinsuke Nakamura the king of strong style. He came to the WWE and they went, hey man, you're going to start in NXT. You don't get to jump straight to TV on the roster. You start here. And he went, fuck yeah, let me sign. That says a lot about NXT to have some of the hottest free agents in this company start there. Yeah. You know, so, and then they have their own homegrown people like Bayley, Baron Corbin, who I've mentioned before, like way back on episode 1 or 2, whatever it was, about him being a former Arizona Cardinal defense or offense or defensive lineman. He's on the main roster. He was part of the draft on Tuesday night. They have guys like the American Alpha team, guys that are ex-legitimate wrestlers, made their way up as a tag team. They got drafted to SmackDown. Carmella, another female wrestler who homegrown, built in NXT. You know, this whole thing came from Triple H. He's the guy that they're grooming to take over for Vince McMahon at some point. He went from the guy who is quote unquote the measuring stick in the ring to the guy who got an office job, and they went, hey man, you're now the COO and executive vice president, or it's like executive of talent relations when it comes to this stuff. His wife is the executive of branding. It's what the fuck is it called? It's it's something executive of company branding or some shit like that, where she deals with what it's like to deal with the brand itself. Like when you deal with people as a publicly traded company and sponsors, she's the one that helps push that stuff out in a positive way. Yeah. You know, she sets up the Be a Star rallies, which is their campaign against bullying. Yeah. She sets up a lot of like the WrestleMania reading challenges and stuff during the week of WrestleMania, where they go out and they do community service and stuff. That's her. She's the branding officer, chief branding officer. That's what it is. Now that I'm thinking about it. COO, okay, chief operating officer is Triple H's title. And I just told you, he's never had a fucking college degree. Yeah. That's all up there, man.
Business, like you said, he's got top-notch education.
Yeah.
You know.
So this company right now with this brand split has a huge, huge opportunity to do some great things with some people that you probably wouldn't have seen or heard about otherwise because of this draft. Yeah. Because like I said, the rosters on each side are pretty thin. Yeah. Now, there's some questions that come into play, and we'll find out how much you did your homework here. Do you know what some of the questions are? You said you read a shit ton of articles. Do you know what some of the questions are that lead into what's going to happen after now that this draft is taking place?
What'll happen once injuries start ringing up?
No. Just in general. This draft has now happened. Okay. We have 2 separate shows. But we still have questions. Do you know what some of those questions are? You brought up a very good point about the champions,
about the
Intercontinental and the U.S. title being dropped so low. That was a big one.
Yeah.
Do you know what some of the other questions are?
The women's division.
What about it?
What kind of, I don't want to say what kind of, what's the status of it?
That's a big problem.
Because they're
not just theirs.
Well, because they're split.
Exactly.
And now your numbers went from being in one, I don't want to say one brand, but one company where they were in line with each other. Now they're split, and now and I don't know what the roster, like the full women's roster looks like, but you were limited.
I'll give you the numbers. One show has 7 women. The other show has 6.
And you're talking about rotating them within one line. You could easily run out of matchups in that situation there.
Here's the biggest question. What do you do about the titles?
The women's or the men's?
Both. Do you have 2 world heavyweight champions? One for each show?
I think you beat...
Or do you take the guy that's the champion and float him between both shows? I was going
to say, I think that's beating a dead horse if you create 2 champions. We're talking about legitimacy of a belt.
Okay.
If you create another one, what legitimacy does either of them have at that point?
Because it's brand specific. Because when you go... I'm not talking about TV. When you go on the road, let's say to Fresno, because they're coming to Fresno in August.
Okay.
If that show is a SmackDown show... Currently, right now, I'm not talking about what happens after Sunday. I'm talking about right now. Dean Ambrose is your champion right now on SmackDown. If that's a Raw show coming to Fresno, you don't get to see the WWE champion in person.
No, but maybe you see, and I didn't look at where eventually everybody ended up. Maybe you see the tag team champions because they're on the Raw.
Well, here's the thing. They're on the SmackDown. No, they're on the Raw roster. You're right. The New Day, who are the current tag team champions, they're on Raw. The WWE champion is on SmackDown.
Yeah.
The Intercontinental champion is on SmackDown. The U.S. champion is on Raw. They split the championships. Usually, this has happened in the past. The U.S. champion and the Intercontinental champion, separate shows. That takes care of an individual title that way. The questions you have is just like you said, the women's division, the world heavyweight title, and the tag team titles. WWE announced that they're going to do a cruiserweight division on Raw.
Yeah.
Specific to Raw. One of the things that Sam Roberts brought up, which you can follow his podcast, the Sam Roberts podcast, which comes out every Friday now because of the way the shows go. Or you can find him on YouTube at Not Sam. He brought up a good point. Why split them? Why not do separate shows? You have one show that has all the tag teams and the tag team titles. One show that has all the women and all the women's. So that way you have the women's championship and that whole division on one show.
Yeah.
So that way, when you have a competition amongst these people, you know, hey, if I want to watch the women, I got to watch this show. And it gives these women an opportunity to possibly even main event the weekly show. Now you look at the tag team, same thing. What do you do with the tag team? Do you create 2 tag team titles?
See, and that'll go back
because
to the
before, in 2002, that's exactly what they did.
I remember that.
They had the WWE champion. At the beginning, it was the undisputed champion where they unified one champion and they had him float back and forth each month. One month was Raw, one month was SmackDown, and they had him go back and forth in a program month to month. They got tired of doing that, and they brought back the World Heavyweight title, which was the WCW World Heavyweight title, which was the big gold belt, and they put that on Raw, and then they took the Undisputed title, took it to SmackDown, and said, that's the WWE Championship. You have the World Heavyweight Championship on Raw, and then WWE Championship on SmackDown. Now you have 2 separate champions. Then they went, okay, tag team titles, same thing. WWE Tag Team Champions, SmackDown. World Tag Team Champions, Raw. Then they went, okay, women. On the women's side, yeah, that's always on Raw. If you are a woman on SmackDown, you're not a wrestler. You're just a valet. You're no longer in ring competitor.
Yeah, see, that's not.
That's how they did that. There's a lot of questions on what the fuck's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because they feel like even the WWE doesn't know. That they haven't made a decision yet.
One of the things that I did read is that the writers are trying to figure out how to settle this woman's thing. Because
what they're trying to do, they said, from the article that I read, is that they just knew that Vince wanted the draft done.
Yeah.
But they haven't made decisions beyond that.
They didn't think about the women's division. One of the, I forget the writer's name, he was talking about this is the only way to handle this because of the lack of numbers within the women's division. because you will very quickly run out of matchups if you put them in 2 different shows.
Right.
They may have to condense them down or possibly rotate them 1 week or 1 month SmackDown, 1 month Raw. So that'll be interesting to see how they handle that one.
I mean, it's across the board. You got a talent pool in the tag team division that's in the same thing. The New Day, they no longer need the tag titles. They're very well liked. They're over. You took the Wyatt family and split them up, which is interesting because they had more ground to cover together. That didn't run out of legs. Like, people thought, like, hey man, what are you doing? Like, these guys could still run together. They took the New Day, said you're here. They took the Wyatt family, went, none of you guys, like, we're gonna separate all you guys. Then you take a group like Enzo and Big Cass. Enzo and Cass right now are the most entertaining group you got as far as tag teams go. You need to have them in some sort of main event or title picture. Going into Sunday, they're teaming with John Cena to take on AJ Styles in the club. They're one of the main attractions that isn't a title match. You want to talk about somebody who's got the gift of gab? Look up Enzo Amore. This guy can fucking talk, and he's hilarious. They got a guy in his name's Big Cass. He's billed in wrestling talk as 7 foot. In reality, he's like 6'8". The guy can work. He's got the look. He's the big body. He's a muscular dude. Enzo had a concussion. Me and Gio talked about this on a previous podcast. Enzo got a concussion, and Cass had to work for about a month by himself. People were kind of like, I don't know, this guy's kind of green. He showed some shit on the mic. Really? And people were like, Vince likes this guy. I think they're going to wind up splitting him up. They kept them together for the draft. You have them on the same show as the tag team champions. Okay? So you're going to put the group that's over as good guys in the New Day versus a group that's good guys in Enzo and Big Cass? People go along. We talked about this before about flipping the bird and the catchphrases and everything else. One of the biggest catchphrases, you heard me reference this on the podcast, is the soft one, where they spell it out. S-A-W-F-T, soft. That shit is over right now. Yeah. And the other thing is that, how you doing? They'll sit there and go through shit where the crowd responds to them after. If you watch Steve Austin, his big thing was the what later in the career, right? Where he would say something and the crowd would go, what? What? Like after every time he said something. It's the same thing, but now Enzo, how you doing? Because they're the New York, New Jersey-based tag team that's supposed to be stereotypical, right? Yeah. So they'll sit there and talk shit about somebody, and they'll run off a list of things, and after every time they hit one of those things on the list, it's, how you doing? How you doing? And the crowd follows right along with them. So, I mean, there's a lot of questions about what they're going to do with the titles. And the big point is the women. Because right now, if you go back to WrestleMania to right now, they finally started giving the women a good amount of time. Where they actually get enough time on TV to tell a good story, to have a good match, to do these things to just show like, hey man, we can hang with the guys. We just needed the opportunity in the window to jump in. Well, now they have it. Well, now you just split the show 7-6? What are you going to do? It's like you said, you could only match up so many people.
Yeah. Storylines will get old a lot faster.
So we'll see what happens, especially after Sunday, because Sunday's going to be, from what I've read, one of two things is going to happen. Either they're going to alternate pay-per-views where one pay-per-view is Raw, one pay-per-view is SmackDown, which is what they used to do, or they're going to fucking double up on pay-per-views. Yeah. Where it's 2 pay-per-views a month, one is Raw, one is SmackDown. That's a lot. If you're the production crew, ouch. Oh, yeah. Because you got to double up on your work.
Well, you're probably just going to bring in more production crews, but okay, so this Sunday, is it a combined pay-per-view?
Yes, this is going to be the last combined thing you'll see.
All right.
Which, in the main event, you have Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. So Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns are both on Raw. Yeah. Dean Ambrose is on SmackDown.
Be an interesting finish.
Should see what happens in the finish.
So we'll save a little bit of the wrestling for Monday.
If you're going to go in the route of splitting the titles, you'll see a controversial finish.
Yeah,
where,
of some sort.
Where you can go, I think that this guy won. No, I thought that guy won. Well, guess what? You can recognize them as your champion on this show, and we'll recognize this guy.
That might be the door that's swinging.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But as we said, it's a 2-part show.
Yeah.
So we'll be back on Monday to talk more wrestling after Battleground.
We'll kind of recap a little more of the draft stuff because there are some more questions that I don't want to say didn't get answered, but there's a lot more to address.
It's left open-ended,
yeah, there's a
for
lot
sure.
Of stuff.
Left
Definitely
open-ended.
for two-part discussion. Maybe
hopefully we can get Gio back in here on
yeah.
Monday. Scheduling conflict today didn't work out that way.
But I tried to educate myself a little bit, so today was a de-ignification of Manuel on WWE Talk.
And just to review real quick, what to watch for, what to look for. The Shawn Michaels Montreal promo with Hulk Hogan. He's in if you're looking for the video, he's in a Pete suit. It's about 10 minutes, 12 minutes long.
8 minutes is what I saw.
It's split. The 8 minutes, it's longer than that. It's split up. And also, if you're looking for a match to watch, Bayley versus Sasha Banks, NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. It won Match of the Year for the NXT Awards this last year. That match is incredible. As always, if you're listening to us on YouTube, you can find us on Instagram at totally_unprofessional. Leave us a comment, share, like, all the good stuff. If you're listening to us on Podbean, make sure that you leave a comment on there or let us know, hey, we like this. We want to hear more of this talk or more of that talk. If there's a topic like wrestling, so far in the podcast that we've done, like we said, this is number 24, wrestling has got the biggest response.
Yeah.
If you want to hear us talk more about wrestling, let us know.
Wrestling and personal life seem to be the favorite topics.
Yes. Yeah.
We'll run out of personal life talk, but we're always willing to talk shit, so that's a bonus.
If you're listening to us on Podbean, you can find us on YouTube as well. We also have previous episodes on there.
Yeah.
And we have the Cricket Challenge video, which is still up
that's
there.
That's our most watched one, actually.
No, the most listened to, the most views, is my brother. It's at 64 views was the last time I saw it.
We are going to try to get my brother on here, too.
Yes.
Next time we visit, so.
You have to understand, we've talked about this in the past, that we've talked about having our tattoo guy and stuff like that. Scheduling conflicts sometimes don't always work out, so we're working out the kinks here. Like we said, this is still early in our podcasting, so it's only gonna work itself out, and we'll iron it out a little bit better. So if you're listening to us on Podbean, you can find us on YouTube as well at Totally Unprofessional Podcast. It'll pop right up. We're right there. It's got every episode on YouTube, and like I said, if you follow us on the Instagram page at totally_unprofessional, we'll follow you back.
Yes.
Make sure you like, share, hashtag us at totally_unprofessional hashtag. It's up there every time. So this has been the 24th episode. This is the Friday edition. I'm Justin.
Manuel.
And we've been Totally Unprofessional.